Hello, hola, I'm Suyasha Gautam. I am a Spanish instructor at EnthuZiastic. Currently, I'm also pursuing my post graduation in Spanish language and literature. Before being an instructor and coming into the field of academics and everything, I have been associated with multinational companies. Until last year or 2 years back, almost, I took the decision of quitting my corporate job and engaging myself, completely investing myself in this field of language and literature because I've always been interested in all of this. So I have a teaching experience of almost 2 years now. Otherwise, I have a professional working experience of close to 5 years. And at Enthusiastic, we have this policy of dedicating as much as knowledge that we have with the students. And I personally make sure that whenever I'm taking Spanish classes, I always focus on the literature, the culture, the history of the place that we are talking about. Because I believe that apart from learning the language, apart from the grammatical learning of the language, it's very essential to know what place the language is coming from, what is the history that it covers, to know about the place of its origin and everything. Because if I do not have interest in the place, I do not think that I can really engage myself into the language learning aspect. So my classes usually are very interesting in terms of they are an amalgamation of learning about the culture, the history of the place. We also do learn about the music of Spain, like flamenco and everything. So all my classes are generally very inclusive, and I make sure that I focus a lot on the speaking aspect. Having said that, I also try to focus as much as I can on the listening, writing, hearing, and all of those aspects also of the language learning. But the main area that I tend to focus on is speaking. The reason being that in my knowledge of in my personal experience also, and the students I have taught, I've usually seen that students do not get comfortable in uh, saying the language. It's very important to make your tongue very comfortable with the language, and that happens eventually. It just doesn't come if I'm learning the language in the class. So I encourage my students that even if they know just like 2 words of Spanish, you have to speak it in the class. So I also enable them to be public speakers in Spanish language. As far as we are concerned about what the Spanish language is about, why learn Spanish, why book your classes with Enthusiastic. So let me tell you that Spanish is one of the most widely spoken languages, and honestly, in my experience, I have covered both the aspects of the language. In terms of my career base, if I see that I have worked in a corporate setup also, now I am a professional educator. So rest assured that this language does give you a lot of opportunities. And for that matter, any language, if you're doing it's not just that it is enabling you to interact with multiple people. That, of course, in this world of globalization, we, as much as people we want to interact with we can, sitting at our homes. Also, it is a very career oriented job, because I started working at a very young age thanks to learning this language. And now, after many years, I thought of changing the stream altogether. Then I also have the opportunity to study further in the language and pursue something out of it. And then there is always, the student always has the chance of going abroad. It's always open. There are multiple opportunities that the government is providing in Spain. The Indian government is providing us multiple opportunities to be in that country and work over there. So, having said that, on the same lines, I would like to present a topic for my students today, for which I am sharing my screen. It's a very small topic, very interesting, and also very important. The topic is very important if I look at the Spanish grammar aspect. So the topic is regarding personal pronouns. I think as students, we all have covered what are personal pronouns in Spanish. I don't think that is something that needs to be covered again and again. But just to start with what is personal pronouns. So personal pronouns are nothing, but whenever I say, let's say I start with I, so that is one personal pronoun. I start with you. So that is another personal pronoun, which is second person. I being the first person, you being the second person. Then we have they, them, which is the third person, or he, she, which is the third person. So, in the same manner, even in Spanish grammar, there are certain personal pronouns, which is very, very important to cover before going to the larger topics or the heavier topics of the Spanish grammar. So, as an introduction, I have already told you what are personal pronouns. For more information, you can always look back to what you studied in your native language as personal pronouns, be it English, Hindi, whatever native language you have. Let's start with personal pronouns or pronombres personales, as we call it in Spanish or Espanol. So, first person is always I. The first person always starts with I. So, it is yo, which is the singular form of personal pronoun. I'll come to what are plurals also. So, first person singular is you, which is the equivalent of I, as you can look over here also, you is I. Second person singular is tú or usted. Now, there's a very minute difference between the usage of tú and usted in Spanish. Both mean you, even if I'm saying tú, even if I'm saying usted, both have the same meaning, which is you. So, to repeat, yo is I, tú and usted is you. Coming to the minute difference between tú and usted, tú is mostly used for an informal setting. For example, I am referring to my friend. I am referring to my sibling. So I might not want to talk to them with respect, but having said that, I have to maintain some decorum, but I necessarily don't have to be formal with them. So I can always go with using tú. But usted is used in scenarios which are more formal in nature, where you have to maintain some decorum, some respect has to be given. Although, very interesting cultural aspect over here usted is that people in Spain are actually not using usted. In fact, they are not using it to the level where they're also getting offended. But in a classroom setup, where while learning the language, by the grammatical learning of the language, it's always recommended to use usted whenever referring to a formal scenario. Like, for example, if I have to talk to my parents who are elder to me, or if I have to talk to my professors, so things like that. Coming to third person singular is L and Asia. So if you see, I have put a slash over here. L and Asia means he slash she, where L is standing for he and Asia represents she. So he or she. Very easy to remember. If you know L, you can automatically recall Asia. So L or Asia. Also, if some of you learners might have noticed, we have a small mark on A, Spanish pronunciation of the letter Z, and we have a small mark on the top of two also on U specifically, which is U in Spanish. That is the accent, which is called as tilde in Spanish. Very, very important aspect of Spanish language. But today we are not here to discuss about the tilde, but just to share the knowledge that L and Asia, he or she. Coming back to where we started. So first person singular is yo. Second person is tú and usted. Very important to remember both, which is you, nothing else. Usted also has the same. Then we have él or Asia, which means he or she. Okay, I hope I was able to make you understand till here. Now we will move to the second part, which is first person plural. First person plural is nothing but plural of yo. So even if I use logic, I can simply say, okay, plural of I is going to be all. So yes, that is what it means. So I, the plural becomes we all. Now you would think that if it is plural, why do we have two things? Nosotros and nosotras. Nosotros and nosotras. Nosotros specifically stands when, or it is specifically used when I am referring to a group of we all, but only males, only masculine. But nosotras is a very specific term for a group where again it is for we all, but it is referring to a group of females, femenino, feminine. So nosotros and nosotras. One thing to note over here is nosotros is also used when there is a combination of both males and females. So instead of segregating it separately, we can simply use nosotros. That's it. So nosotros, nosotras. Again repeating, where nosotros stands for a group of boys or masculine. Nosotras is for feminine. But if we have a combination of the two, we can only go with nosotros. So nosotros, nosotras, we all. To second person plural. If second person singular is you, so plural will obviously be you all. You all, which is where we use vosotros or vosotras. Coming to where vosotros is used and vosotras is used, it's exactly the same logic that we're going to put. Vosotros is going to be for you all. Vosotras is also you all, but femenino, which is feminine. Again, if it is a common group which includes both masculine and feminine, it is going to be the common vosotros. I hope it is making sense. You can always refer to this table for more information. So vosotros, vosotras is all. Coming to the last one, this is third person plural. Now, if I already know that third person singular is X or Asia, so I would know that plural will definitely become Asios, which is they or them. So similarly, Asios, Asias. Again, the difference over here lies of O and A, where Asios will be used for a group of guys, masculine. Asias will be used for group of girls, femenino. I hope till here it makes sense. Now there is one new addition over here which you can see as ustedes. I put a comma and I put ustedes. Now ustedes, if you pay attention, it is somewhat looking similar to usted. I hope that's making sense. Only difference between usted and ustedes is of as in the end. As, which is representing nothing but ustedes is the plural of usted. That's how we make plurals in Spanish. If the word is ending consonant, so ustedes will again be they all, same as ellos, ellas. The only difference is that ustedes we are going to use when I am referring to a formal setting. Like if I want to refer to my professors, let's say, so I will use ustedes ellos, or ustedes ellas, something on those lines. After this, I will also do some examples using these pronoun-based personalities so that it makes more sense. Just to repeat again, yo, tú, usted, él, ella, nosotros, nosotras, vosotros, vosotras, ellos, ellas, ustedes. Where yo is I, tú, usted is you, second person, yo is first person, él, ella is he or she, nosotros, nosotras is we all. Vosotros, vosotras is you all. Ellos, ellas, ustedes is they all. Now, students might or new learners might have this doubt that what is the correct way of learning it? Trust me, the only way of learning it is mugging it up. But having said that, that doesn't mean that we have to do wrong. We will also learn it by making sentences, by using it in our conversations. That is why it is always recommended to take professional help while learning a new language so that you know the different aspects of learning the language. Because videos generally don't do justification with the language learning aspect. So, the next part of this conversation, this lesson, will include looking at some examples using personal pronouns. I will try to very, very small examples since right now the vocabulary is very limited for us. So I'll always put very small and crisp examples. Let us look at some examples pertaining to personal pronouns. So examples of personal pronouns. I'll keep very, very short sentences. First, we can always begin a sentence with yo. We can look up the first personal pronoun or pronombre personales, as we call it in Spanish. Pronombres personales. The first is going to be with yo. I will simply say my name is yo. Very basic sentence. This way, the learner can also learn how to say their name in Spanish. How to cover the first aspect, the very basic aspect of their introduction in Spanish. So it is yo soy Suyasha. Yo soy Suyasha, which is nothing but I. Like we already know that yo stands for I. So I am Suyasha, which is nothing but my introduction or my name. There is another way of saying our name in Spanish, but we'll look at it in a different lecture. Yo soy Suyasha. Soy is representing am, which means to be, and it is coming from a verbo in Spanish, which is ser. Yo soy Suyasha. Second person is tú. Let us look at a sentence with tú. Tú eres profesora. Tú eres profesora. For those who already know what tú stands for, we know that it stands for you. Eres would stand for you are professor. You are a professor. Profesora, it is something which is sounding very similar to the English word professor. So it's not such a big challenge to understand this. So tú eres profesora, where I've used the second personal pronoun, which is tú. Let's come to the third personal pronouns. There are many. There is él, ella, and usted. Él, ella, usted. So I'll go one by one. I'll keep él first. Él es médico. Él es médico. S stands for is, as it would be suggesting. So he is a doctor. He is a doctor. Now, on similar lines, we can take up Asia, which stands for, as we already know, she. So él is médico, he is doctor. Asia stands for she. Ella is madre. Ella es mi madre. Madre in Spanish represents mother. So she is my mother. If you would notice, I have used this word S 2 times and it stands for is. Very, very important to note. Asia is mi madre. She is my mother. Fourth is a sentence with usted, where I'm going to use usted in the same sentence, but the only difference would be I'm applying usted. Ella, usted es mi madre. Ella, usted es mi madre. The sentence doesn't change, its meaning doesn't change, it still means she is my mother. The only aspect that I put is usted because, like I repeated in the previous segment also, that usted is only to represent the formal communication. That's it. Ella, usted es mi madre. Now, repeating it before we go to the other personal pronouns and their sentences. Yo soy Suyasha. Tú eres profesora. Él es médico. Ella es mi madre. Usted es mi madre. You can form innumerable sentences using usted on the similar lines. Please do give it a try. Let's come to nosotros. Nosotros somos estudiantes. Nosotros somos estudiantes. For those who are new, they would know that somos is new for you, but they would know that estudiantes is sort of something similar to some word in English, which is students. So we are students, or we all are students, anything, because we know that nosotros stands for students. Coming to nosotras, not much changes. We can simply say nosotras somos estudiantes, which is we all are students. And like I was saying earlier, if it's a common group, we can simply omit nosotros, nosotras, we can simply put nosotros. After nosotros, we know that the next personal pronoun is vosotros or vosotras. Vosotros, vosotras, we can take up the same sentence. Vosotros sois estudiantes. Vosotros sois estudiantes. Or vosotras sois estudiantes. Any aspect is correct. Coming to the last personal pronoun for this lecture is ellos, ellas, or we can say ustedes. We can simply take up the same sentence. Ellos son estudiantes. They are students. Or if I'm referring to a female batch, I can say ellas. In the same sentence, I can always use ellas. Ustedes son estudiantes. If I'm talking to, let's say, someone or a group who is senior to me. So this basically encompasses your personal pronouns chapter. Of course, there is more to it. There are always more examples that a student can do. So for the same, I would like to say that feel free to enroll yourself for the Spanish classes to learn from me. Enroll yourself at EnthuZiastic using it. You can use the link to enroll yourselves. And I hope this lecture was useful for those who are watching for the first time or those who already have some knowledge of Spanish. Thank you.